Hello shooters, Tyron here. Thanks for watching. Appreciate all the shares, likes, and subscribes. Today's episode is about limp wristing. I don't see it very often in my classes at all, but I also work as a range officer at a range here, and so when I'm working the line, I do see it. And I have seen it before. It doesn't happen in class as much because we go over the grip before anybody gets to shoot any live rounds, but I have seen it quite a bit. What limp wristing is, and it's typically polymer framed handguns, is when the shooter comes up and when they fire a round, the slide doesn't cycle all the way. It either catches the empty in a stovepipe or some other kind of malfunction related to that. So what I've done is I've gathered a whole bunch of different handguns, polymer and steel and aluminum framed. Going to take them out to the range, going to fire 5 rounds through each one of them of my reloads. My reloads are not the hottest rounds on the planet. They're on the cooler end of the scale. So I'm not using as much powder, so I can shoot more per dollar. Okay. So if the handgun shoots 5 rounds of my reloads, just holding it with the thumb and finger, you'll see it. I don't have a conventional grip on the handgun. If it survives that, I know it'll work with more powerful ammunition. If it doesn't survive those 5 rounds, then we'll run more powerful ammunition through it and see where it shakes out. And then I'll post my final thoughts.
Smith & Wesson all steel 5906. Man, what a nice handgun it is to shoot. Beretta 92 SF, aluminum frame, a little bit fat for a 9, but they're accurate and reliable. I knew the Glocks would struggle in this test. If it takes more than a second or two to clear the mouth, I edited that part out to keep the video as short as possible. Now with my middle finger, I'm not gripping the handgun with my middle finger. I'm just kind of, it's loosely placed on the frame just to keep the gun from jumping out of my hand. I'm not gripping with my middle finger with any of the shots. It's just kind of loosely placed on the handgun. XD struggles with this part too. And if I don't start with my middle finger on the gun, it gets there real quick. So, you know, somebody says, "Oh, you didn't have your middle finger on the gun and it didn't work." Well, the middle finger is not providing any support at all. It's just there to keep the gun from flipping out of my hand. See, there we go. My middle finger wasn't on the gun. It still worked, this Smith & Wesson MP. If the gun fails to lock back on an empty mag, I don't count that as a malfunction. The only malfunction is if it doesn't eject the brass or it has trouble feeding the next brass. That's a malf. Failure to lock back is not a malf for the purposes of this video. See, that was a failure to lock back. I didn't count that as a mouth. The mag dropped out. On that, it didn't. It kicked the round out, but it didn't lock the mag back. I didn't count that as a mouth. Now that was a mouth because there was a piece of brass. It didn't eject the brass. And that wasn't a mouth because it did eject the brass. And that wasn't a mouth because it ejected the brass but just didn't lock open. That hot load, that Smith & Wesson Shield with a hot load is, you know, it bounces around a little more than the full-size guns do. When I cleared a mouth, I dropped a round out of the mag, so I'm just sticking it back in there to finish it out. And it did lock back on an empty mag. The FN guns have the tightest lockup of any of the handguns I have tested so far. Their lockup is like a vault. really tight lockup. That may have something to do with causing malfs on a gun. I don't know. Smith & Wesson has the loosest lockup, so maybe there's something to that. Okay, so here's a table I made. These are the handguns down here on the left side. And the middle is how it did with the target loads and how it did with the hot loads. First handgun was Smith & Wesson 5906 all steel model, and it passed with flying colors. Next was the Beretta 92, has aluminum frame. It passed with flying colors. Third was the Glock 17 Gen 4. It failed miserably on the target loads. 0 for 5 worked. And with the hot loads, 0 for 5 worked. Springfield XD Mod 2 failed miserably with the target loads. And it did okay with the hot loads. 4 for 5 went off without a malfunction. Smith & Wesson M&P 9, it passed with flying colors. H&K VP 9, 4 of 5 worked. Hot loads, 4 of 5 worked. The Canik TP 9 SF, 3 for 5 worked with the target loads, and with the hot loads, 4 for 5 worked. Smith & Wesson M&P 9C, flying colors, pass. Glock 19 Gen 3 target loads, 3 for 5 worked. Hot loads, 4 for 5 worked. FN S9 full size, 3 for 5 of the target loads worked. 0 for 5 of the hot loads worked. I'm still scratching my head over that one. Smith & Wesson M&P 9 Shield, 4 for 5 worked with the target loads and 4 for 5 worked with the hot loads. FNS 9 Compact, 3 for 5 worked with the target loads and 4 for 5 worked with the hot loads. Notice that the only polymer handgun to pass was the M&P 9 full size and the M&P 9 Compact.
So there's the results. My final thoughts. If you're someone that's of smaller stature and you have, thin skeletal and musculature, if you don't have a lot of mass in your entire body, if you're a small statured female or a small statured male, if you're older and you don't have a lot of strength in your wrists and forearms, this can become an issue, and you may want to lean more towards the Smith & Wesson M&P line that doesn't limp wrist, and shy away from the FN and the Springfield and the Glock, because they do limp wrist, and the HK to a lesser degree. Other than that, if you are of larger size, you have above average size wrists and hands and forearms and everything, I don't think it's ever going to become an issue. I've never had it be an issue. I've never, even people in my classes, I've never seen it be an issue once they're taught how to properly hold a handgun and all that jazz. But anyhow, I thought the information was interesting. Thank you for watching. Appreciate all the shares, likes, and subscribes. If you have any limp wristing stories or concerns or whatever, post them down below. Let's have a short conversation about it, or I'd like to hear your stories. Ensure that your training and your practice is preparing you for the real world, your real world, and not for the fantasy land of the shooting range. And as always, have a great day.